Welcome back to our latest episode of A Candle or the Night podcast. This is a show featuring a group of friends playing Star Wars Force and Destiny role-playing game. Sorry we are a little bit delayed on this next episode. I was traveling and then got sick as soon as I got back. Don't you love flying? This is episode number 15, which we have titled Korriban Dreamin. If you are enjoying the show, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review on your favorite podcast source. If you'd like to read up on the campaign background or see some of the fantastic artwork our talented artists have created, visit our website at www.candleorthenight.com. There you can also find links to our YouTube page, where we now post our sessions in video format, so you can see the game board and dice rolls and such. If you have any comments or want to leave feedback, just shoot us an email at feedback@candleorthenight.com. You can also find our Facebook page, leave us a message there. And now, enjoy the show. Everybody roll me 1 force dice, please.
Come on, man! Never have I rolled a light side.
You love to feed the dark side.
Apparently I do.
Alright, well you guys came out on top with that, so... Alright, so we got our destiny points set up there. 3 light side, 2 dark side. And then some updates. We have, I know that Victor is not with us tonight, but our artist just finished his character art, actually, which I'd like to throw up there for everyone to admire, because it's pretty friggin' awesome.
It's great.
Yeah, so the artist who did Tyrus's did this, Chalmer Relator, his name is. Very talented artist. And I talked with Victor about what he wanted his character to show. And basically he wanted to kind of depict...
Yoda at the bar in the
I was just wondering.
It does look Yoda-esque, doesn't it? So he wanted Victor to kind of be the sort of guy who would be sitting in the bar and surveying the scene casually, but look like he wasn't, and to be perhaps not the most noticeable person in the room. And I think he really nailed the eyes and the expression on the face. And one of the inspirations for the look of the character's age and appearance was Jim Raynor from StarCraft, so you can kind of see a little of that in the face for sure.
That's the first thing I said. I was like, oh my god, he kind of looks like Jim Raynor. And then I went, oh my god, he's old.
Yeah, he does want his character to be older, middle-aged, older side of middle-aged.
Yeah.
So.
And rough looking.
I think they did a really nice job with that, and I'm super excited to see what they come up for you, Jensa.
I know, I sent them rough drafts.
So moving on from that, we can do our recap and jump on in.
All right.
Okay, so this was last time on session 14. All right, so session 14, this is our next episode of A Candle or the Night, a Star Wars Force and Destiny campaign. Session 14, the party comes rushing to the tower in Starshard Canyon to see what became of Master Nouen. They found chaos, as the chamber had been damaged and disordered, and Master Nouen is found on the verge of death, bleeding out from an abdominal wound, and clearly under the effects of poison. Bior manages to stabilize Master Nouen while Victor receives a transmission to his datapad containing the last security footage from the tower. The footage reveals KR-8 entering the chamber and confronting Master Nouen. He reveals himself to be Crate, the head of the Shrouded Bane, operating for decades under total anonymity. He takes pleasure in toying with Master Nouen, who sadly already imbibed a deadly poison placed in his flask. Succumbing to its effects, he is paralyzed as Crate reveals his true form, an advanced artificial intelligence with a chassis that can produce a holographic disguise. While he reveals his true desire to undermine the very existence of organic life in the galaxy, he takes a twisted delight in stabbing the defenseless Master as he collects Dr. Bendix and departs for parts unknown. Disheartened, the party must decide what to do next. Victor and Kip discover clues to the location of a ship that Master Nouen had set aside for their escape. Leaving the ailing Jedi with Kiara to be taken to the Rebel hospital frigate, the party goes to collect their new ship. They discover a beautiful freighter hidden in a cavern. Despite the beautiful body styling and advanced systems and luxury interior appointments, the ever-cheerful Jensa only muses how difficult it is to find the bathroom. As the party gets used to their new home, they contact the evacuated population of Duskin's Cove, who are hiding out in a transport in an adjacent system. Planning to rendezvous, they are intercepted by a pair of TIE fighters on patrol. Still getting the hang of their new vessel, combat proceeds awkwardly, and despite taking some light damage to the ship, the party escapes safely. As Ruuria Prime is now safely in their rear-view mirror, the party must decide what role they have in the evolving struggle. Each guided by their own motivations, will this new band of adventurers find common ground, or, as they are no longer marooned on a remote moon, and the freedom to explore the universe finally opens up to them. And with that, you guys are actually on board the Errant Seeker, your starship, and let's throw that up there. So you are on board your ship currently. I'll put up the interior again for you.
Once everybody's kind of like rested and showered, because I know we were all like pretty much pushing the end of our burning the candle at both ends. I think we should probably all talk as a group, if that's cool with everybody else.
And Jensa, I would like to call your attention to the fact that the map has been updated with the hatch location to the toilet and refresher on the underside. So you no longer have to hold
like a bidet?
your bladder. No, actually, there is a hatch in the floor. Instead of going up in the turret, you go down into the underbelly of the ship, where there is a private bathroom and shower. Apparently in Star Wars, they call them refreshers, not showers. Didn't know that until recently.
There's probably not water, maybe that's why. They probably have some kind of...
Bantha urine or something.
Well, I'm just thinking there's got to be some kind of aerosol spray or something.
No.
Water on a ship, a spaceship, you know?
It's moist towelettes or nothing.
Probably something like... There's some kind of powdered spray or some kind of compressed chemical thing.
Sanitary towelettes.
Urinary.
Microscopic medical...
Urinal cakes, that's all.
What are you guys doing in the ship at the moment?
I'm gonna kind of like, you know, after I've rested up, kind of knock on doors and say, or actually I'll just go over comms and say, hey guys, maybe we should talk about where we go from here. And I believe last game we had intended to rendezvous with the merchants and then go find our master. Wasn't that the deal?
That was the deal. You were going to rendezvous with the transport that has all the evacuees from Duskin's Cove.
And see if we can help our master.
Yes, he actually is en route elsewhere.
Yeah, but we're going to catch up to him.
Yeah, but you're going to catch up to him.
I just want to make sure I've got everything right in my notes. So I just kind of want to take a moment. I know we did not have like a good relationship necessarily, or at least I didn't have a great relationship with Nobi, I would say. And we only knew him for a couple of days, and those were some pretty crazy days. But he passed. So At least I hope he didn't survive that, because that was pretty horrible what happened in that room. I can't imagine he would have survived what happened, and I kind of look at Tyrus, since Tyrus and I were the two that were there when that happened.
And I would just say, Jensa, I wouldn't be so sure.
I don't know, he was frozen and then the room exploded.
Dead or alive, he's a hero.
Yeah, he blew the room up to get us out. If he survived that, I just can't imagine anybody surviving that blast. I think it's probably best if we just assume that he didn't make it. But did anybody talk to him? Does anybody know if he has any family? I mean,
he was a man of few words.
We were also kind of in a situation where, you know, we didn't have a lot of time to sit and talk about our upbringing.
I will always remember him saying, "I'm here to help." just before he grabbed his gun and shot.
Like I said, I don't think I necessarily got on well with him, but you know, I still think it deserves some acknowledging. And if anybody knows where he's from, or if he has family that we should contact, you know, we should probably try. It seems like nobody really does.
I'm not sure anyone asked much about his past.
No, we were kind of getting shot at most of the time we know him.
Yeah, you were kind of crashing on planets and getting shot at and eaten by cacti and all kinds of other things.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of time to socialize. This is like our first time to actually sit down and talk. And with that, on those lines, we should probably talk about where we go from here, because we met under a very tense situation. My personal desire is Victor. I'm just gonna be honest here. Victor and I have we kind of started this adventure a little earlier than you guys. We saved a bunch of kids that one of the cartels was smuggling to the Empire to be executed. So we're kind of already harboring a small group of children that have the same kind of biological advantages that everybody in this room has. So when we heard Master Nouen talking about finding a planet out of the system, away from the Empire, to start over, that immediately brought the kids to the forefront with us, because they're not in the best place right now. We have them where we can put them. So, I mean, I kind of like the idea of maybe finding an out-of-the-way planet and getting people like us out. Because no one should have to have the kind of childhood I did.
Well, Jensa, if you want to accomplish that goal, doesn't it seem that we'll need the advice of the Master?
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm going with this. Is like, that's kind of what I'm shooting for, and I just want a full disclosure. That I would like to help as many people like us as possible get away from this craziness and have a chance at rebuilding lives for themselves and maybe rebuilding the Order. And I don't know if that's something you guys want, but that's what I want. I was thinking, once we get to the Master, maybe we could, because money's going to be an issue. How bad is the ship? Do we need repairs immediately?
No, ma'am.
Oh, thank you, God. She, like, visibly breathes a sigh of relief. Every time we got hit, it's like, no, new ship, no! I would like to get some front guns for the ship. We could possibly do some running for the rebellion. But Does anyone have any idea if that psycho bot has any idea who we are? Because I don't think he does. Like, he hired us to go check out those wreck sites, but he doesn't actually know that we're force sensitive, to my knowledge.
I don't think we can assume of anything that he knows.
Like, he doesn't even know that we talked to Master Nouen more than once, right?
He seems that way.
So we could potentially go join this competition that we think he's going to go join and use it as an excuse to maybe get some merc cred going. Because if we're going to do anything, we're going to have to make money, guys. And we're in a situation right now where we could start our own crew. We can be very picky about the kind of jobs we take, and I'm totally fine with a democracy about any sort of commission work. We should all agree on it. But this would be a good opportunity to kind of build a name for ourselves, and in the process, we could do something about the psychopathic droid. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Money is power. Money is survival.
So, does that sound like a good idea to you, Cyrus Bior?
Also, Nobi talked to me in the cave before he was killed, before we went into that horrible place, and he said, if by any chance any of us doesn't make it, please distribute my credits among yourselves.
Wow, that was really nice of him.
That's awesome.
Did he have his credits? Did he manage to hand those to you as we were fleeing out of the exploding cave?
I have access to his accounts, let's just put it that way.
Oh, well, that'd be great, because I'm flat broke, so... I think whatever money we make, the ship's maintenance and upgrades should be like a first priority, and then we'll divvy up what's left.
Absolutely.
But fuel,
remember, the
is going to be the
proprietor of the black box owes us some money.
Yeah,
So
I know, and that's where we're heading.
Getting to that location is our next step.
Yeah, let's get there, then let's get to our master, see if we can help our master. If, while we're helping our master, like if the rebels know of some kind of herb on some weird planet, we should make an opportunity of that to maybe take some goods. And then we do have one other thing that we need to talk about, because out of character I was definitely made aware that Kip was using Force abilities. Like, we felt him using the Force, is that correct?
Well, you would have been in the room when he did it, and you would have felt it.
Didn't he fix the ship with a popsicle stick and a bobby pin?
Yeah, and I kind of
it was a bobby pin, and an Allen wrench. Thank you very much.
He was MacGyvering it back there.
And an oddly frilly garter belt. We don't know why.
I so wish I had the MacGyver theme saved on here right now.
I know.
I have a question for Kip. Kip, in your travels with your, shall we say, your guardian, did he ever have you perform any services to make some money? Do you have any skills that we could use to make some cash?
Kip can keep the ship running. You know how much that's worth?
True, but perhaps he has other skills, other abilities that we can leverage to our advantage.
He would have me build things, like guns, or a lot of times he'd have me modify a gun, or guns, to have non-standard qualities.
Would it be possible for you to upgrade any of the weapons that the party currently carries?
I asked him to fix whatever's weird with this lightsaber, I say.
But with your blasters, perhaps we can upgrade or upgrade them to sell.
Oftentimes that's what he had me do, yes.
I don't want to, Kip, I don't want to take advantage of you. I don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. You've been taken advantage of enough, but we do have to talk about something. Kip, you're kind of like us. We can sense it.
You are mechanically inclined too?
No, you do a different thing, but we all do kind of different things. But the things that you do, your aptitude, that's something to do with the Force. And I don't know how it works, and I am basically tantamount to a absolute novice when it comes to knowledge of the Force, and I wish Master Nouen could talk to you and explain this to you better. But I kind of look at Bior and Tyrus, kind of looking between them awkwardly, like I'm not sure how to say this. You're kind of like us. You have some kind of heightened relationship with the Force.
Ma'am? Do you mean... I don't know what the Force is.
It's again, I look at Tyrus and Bior, kind of like I don't know how to explain this to this kid. The Force is an energy, and it's all around us and always moving through us in the universe. And some people are receptive to that energy and can manipulate it.
Ma'am, are you talking about quantum mechanics? Because that was my sister's specialty.
I'm talking about Jedi.
They're terrorists.
That's not really true, Kip, but I understand that's what you said. And the issue here is, because you're like us, if we take you home, there is a chance you could be killed. And I'm still going to take you home if that's what you want. But if people realize that what you're doing is what we have noticed is what you're doing, then that would probably be the end of your life. And I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm not trying to say that to make you stay. I will drop you off whenever and wherever you want to get off. And as soon as I know that Master Nouen is okay, I plan on taking you home.
Are you telling me the Jedi will hunt me down and kill me?
No, I'm telling you, you could have been a Jedi if you had received the proper training. You still could be.
But I'm a good Imperial citizen. I would never terrorize them.
The Jedi protected the Empire for thousands of years.
Then why did they try to overtake the government?
I don't know that that's exactly what happened.
But that's what everyone says.
I was at a Jedi temple with a bunch of very nice Jedi that were taking care of me, that was my family, and a bunch of stormtroopers came in and killed everyone in front of me. So I was there, and that's what I saw.
They were protecting you from being...
They were going to kill me too, because I have the abilities that I have. But nice people got me away.
So are you saying that you were saved from the Jedi by the Imperial Guards?
No, I'm saying the Imperial Guards murdered my family.
Because they were terrorist Jedi?
They were not terrorists, Kip.
Are you saying that not all Jedi were terrorists?
I'm saying that you may have been educated poorly.
But I go to the best mechanical engineering school in the Empire.
But it's the Empire's advantage. It's at the leadership's advantage to tell history, to put themselves in a favorable light.
Okay.
But I was there, and that's what I experienced as a child.
Yeah.
The people I was with were not terrorists.
Shh. Sorry.
Okay, ma'am. What would you like me to fix?
That's not what I'm saying, Kip. I'm basically do you still want to go home? I'll take you home.
Yes, but you say the Jedi are hunting me now.
The Jedi are not hunting you, Kip.
But someone's hunting me, yes?
The Empire will hunt you.
But I'm a good citizen.
It doesn't matter. You have the same abilities I did. I was a good citizen. Everyone in this room. Yes. Okay. Then that's what we'll do. And I just kind of look at Tyrus and kind of like, I don't know what to say to the kid.
I realize that Kip doesn't have the framework to be able to understand any of this. So all I say to him is, Kip, we are all strangers here. We all came together in an unexpected way. And I know that you don't understand what's going on, but I would just ask you, in your logical, highly ordered mind, to be open to the possibility that what you've been told in the past may not be true. And we're all going to have to learn to cooperate and trust each other if we're going to survive this.
Thank you, Patron Tyrus. I do understand that.
And then I turn to Jensa and say, set course.
So you guys would know that you're currently in hyperspace. Typically what I'll be having Jensa do is make an astrogation skill check to calculate a route, and a lot of things would modify that in difficulty, but after making that check, that would affect whether you get to the right place you intend to, how long it takes, etc., etc. Also, I would say having accurate star charts was going to be important, so whenever you have an opportunity as you move across the galaxy, try and pick up updated star charts. It will make your astrogation checks easier. So you are amidst a hyperspace jump. You've been in hyperspace perhaps maybe 3 hours out of essentially a 18-hour jump. You're heading to the Zygeria system where the transport coordinates were. So you're currently kind of in transit. Previously, Jensa had asked Kip if he would be willing to make a exam and modification of Jagasan's weapon. And Kip, if you're willing to do that, I would like you to make a hard mechanics check.
Hang on.
If you have any appropriate bonuses that need to be applied, just let me know.
And basically, I'm going to say to the other two, once Kip is out of the room, I don't know what to do, guys. I'm not emotionally... He's kind of off, and I don't know how to deal with this. But if he wants to go home, I'm not going to not take him home.
Let's survive the next few weeks before we make any plans.
Yeah, I wouldn't plan to take him anywhere, except with us.
He's safest with us for the moment.
So out of
he's
character.
definitely safer with us, but we're not going to kidnap him. If he wants to go home.
Out of character.
He's choosing to stay with us, and he's, for whatever impairment, he's extremely good with repairing everything. He's an asset.
I wouldn't say in any way that he has an impairment. He simply has a more ordered mind. His operating system is much of that of a mechanical object, and so logic and order will be the way to approach this.
Maybe somebody else should, because like the chances of me getting emotional when he calls the Jedi terrorists are probably pretty high. But like I said, I mean, I'm not going to kidnap him. If he wants to go home, we should take him home. Wow. It's not our call. And he's been kidnapped multiple times at this point. He's been getting shuffled around by pirates.
Survival first. First priority.
I agree.
Out of character.
Sorry, Dan, didn't mean to interrupt.
Where is Kip at the moment?
So Kip is in his room, like basically fiddling with the or studying the lightsaber. I have something called Master Artisan. Once per round, I may take the Master Artisan incidental. I suffer 2 strain to decrease the difficulty of my next mechanics check by 1 to a minimum of easy. So I have that. I have something called Inventor, which when I'm constructing a new item or modifying existing attachments, I get to add what is that blue box?
Blue dice.
That boost dice.
The boost dice.
Roll it.
Yep. Okay.
Wow. Okay, so you rolled 3 successes, an advantage, and a triumph. So
Kick
while
ass.
you are spending time, and actually you would be in the engine room at the workbench where you have a suitable space to interact with mechanical items, use tools, things like that. And you feel a certain comfort in this room. The hum of the sublight engines and the hyperdrive would be very soothing to you. And as you work, you zone out the world around you, and pretty much nothing exists in your mind other than what you're focusing on. And while you're doing it, your intense focus is so effective that in your mind you can envision in perfect 3-dimensional space every component, every part, every circuit, and dissect it mentally, almost as if your mind was like an AutoCAD software. And you are able to successfully and without damage disassemble the lightsaber that Jagasan carried, which as you inspect it has a word etched into the hilt, Sirocco. You would have recognized this name as what he would have referred to his weapon as, and as you handle it, I'm curious, do you feel anything handling this weapon of someone that you spent a fair amount of time with?
He's conflicted. Jag was not physically abusive, but Kip knew that Jags was volatile. But
Kip has
he never felt safe with him, but he didn't feel like he was in constant danger. It was a more on the surface feeling with Jag than it was with his patrons, who were cold and aloof. They took care of him, but it was always clear that subtly that they could take things away from him. With Jags, at least it was on the surface. So he knew if he did his job, just like at home, then they wouldn't hurt him.
And as you disassemble it, memories kind of flood back to you occasionally of him demonstrating things to you, trying to teach you things, partly perhaps to demonstrate to you the extent of his power, maybe to impress or possibly intimidate. But on the other hand, you did have a sense on some level that he was trying to impart wisdom to you in his own paternal sort of way.
Yeah, I do remember that, yes.
While you compartmentalize those memories and those feelings, you succeed in opening the hilt. And as you open the hilt, you're examining the materials, and it's made of a curious metal which has the texture of almost a black sandstone, a gritty kind of texture, but it's clearly metallic. There's a sort of wooden carved grip on the handle, and the wood is looks like a sun-scorched kind of wood, like a branch that had been left out in the desert too long. but it had a very smooth finish. And as you disassemble it, you see what kind of gives some of the saber its properties. Normally, a lightsaber would have its kyber crystal and energy source funneled through a condensing lens that would create a, dense energetic blade. Where in this case, he had installed a diffuser so that the blade would kind of be sort of scattered and have a tendency to vent plasma while it was in effect. So you would understand inherently that it would impart a burning quality to the weapon. And knowing that your companion Jensa seems to feel that this is an indication of a defective device, you're able to successfully uninstall it and adapt it into a condensing lens. And in so doing, after reassembling the saber, and you hold it in your hand, and it's probably the first time you've ever done this yourself, knowing that this weapon was a symbol of Jagasan's power, you touch the activator, and instead of a burning diffuse blade coming out, you see this beautiful curved, almost scimitar-like blade with a perfect definition. And when you look at it from the side, it has a broadness to it that an ordinary lightsaber doesn't have. And when you turn it at another angle, it's almost perfectly planar, like it would almost become invisible if you look down the plane of it. And so now it has this sort of razor-sharp energy edge to it, while still retaining its kind of curved scimitar shape. And as an out-of-character description, although it loses its burning property, it now gains 1 damage to its overall damage. So, and in addition, out of character to you, Kip, the next time, due to the Triumph, the next time you try to modify any lightsaber, you will be able to roll two boost dice due to your
Nice.
sort of self-education in this process.
You
so you may
learned a
want to
lot.
make note of that. You may want to make note of that somewhere so you remember, because I'm sure I won't. But
no, I'm going to put it in my notes.
After completing this modification, you probably feel some degree of satisfaction, and I now leave it to you to tell me what you do after completing it.
Kip comes out of the engine room, and he says, "Patron Jensa, Patron Jensa, look, I fixed it!" And this is the first time you've seen him happy, and he's beaming with pride. And he says, "I hope you like it."
Let me see. I'm gonna smile back at him and try to be happy.
Yeah, he's like this is
I'm going to try to meet his optimism. It might actually look scary to people that know Jensa.
She's the Wednesday Addams of space.
Sorry. I'm gonna
look.
Let me see.
I hand it to you. I do not turn it on. I let you do that.
I'm gonna take it up. I'm gonna turn it on. And she's gonna kind of gasp and kind of turn it in her hands and
Maybe not that dramatically.
yeah.
Apologies.
I hope you like it. I think I improved it.
Oh, this is beautiful, Kip. This is amazing.
He smiles.
You
Pride.
You have a extremely special gift, Kip. This is amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is why the patrons took me from my parents. Because they said I had a gift.
You are exceptional, Kip. Don't ever, ever, ever let anyone take this gift away from you.
How would they take it away from me? It's in my head.
I guess that's true. Does that ball thing, like, Bior knows how that thing works, right?
Enlighten me. What do you mean by ball thing?
The floaty spear.
Oh, correct. Yes. Just to remind everyone, on room 8, which is the lounge, which is basically your common area. You have a huge table, chairs around it. There's some cabinetry and shelving in the corner that contains some of your rations and things. And on the table, there is a large sort of dodecahedral shape that is hovering on a stand and rotating slightly, with a bunch of glowing lines and patterns all over the surface.
Hey, Bior.
Yeah.
You want to show me how this thing works? I say with the lit lightsabers, I look towards the ball thing, whatever it's called.
Bior,
would know how to use it, right?
make a average lore check, please. Knowledge
He's
lore.
he's the only one that made it last game. If I recall correctly.
Actually, I don't think everyone failed the roll last game, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
That's why you left it undiscussed.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
It would be
That's one purple
an
dice?
average knowledge lore, and that's 2 purple dice. Okay, so, Bior, you have heard of these before. Seeing as how you've been extremely well-traveled in your career as a guardian to various prominent people across the galaxy, and you have seen many different cultures, you have come across the Jedi in many different places in the galaxy. You would recognize this as what is referred to as a holographic chronicle, or abbreviated term holocron. This is an ancient technique the Jedi used to store knowledge, and in the holographic memory banks, a Jedi could use the Force to impart his knowledge and actually his intelligence and some aspects of his personality programmed into this holographic core, and with the correct knowledge, a Force-sensitive person could engage with it and use it as a source of learning.
Oh, it's not one of those lightsaber practice pinata.
Oh, wow.
You assume this was left here by your master.
Right. Do I know any kind of way to access this thing?
The only times that you've ever seen a Jedi access this, you have seen them meditate in its presence and focus themselves onto the actual holocron using the Force.
Well, hey, I
out
did
of
just give them
character.
both the meditation lesson.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, guys, this is gonna be like an exercise for all of us, because I'm not sure which one of us, if all of us, if any of us, is gonna be able to see what's in this. But we need to quiet down, and we need to just focus.
Like, focus on it?
Yes. Focus on it. Feel it more than focus on it. Try to become it.
I will.
And we may be able to access this.
Can you describe this holocron? Does it look mechanical or organic? What does it look like?
I thought it was one
It
of
is-
those, like, balls that Luke Skywalker was practicing his lightsaber off. That's what I thought it
No,
was.
it is
That's
not a
what I
training
thought.
remote, actually. This would, even though I may not have described it clearly when you come in, this would look like something both highly technological and highly mystical at the same time. Although it's made of largely inorganic substances, crystals, and matrices that give it a structure, the center is crystalline, and there are these carefully almost crafted or carved circuit boards on the surface of these crystals that would transmit light information and store data in a holographic manner. So inside of it, as you peer into it, you can see these wonderfully and beautifully ornate wafer-thin panels that are all sort of carved circuit boards that sort of flicker with a blue light. So it does look in a way mechanical, but not in a sense that you would necessarily be familiar with. And I probably imagine it would slightly fascinate you.
Yeah, no, that's because this whole like sense it, feel it, like I don't know what he's talking about. But the minute he sees like there's like, you know, structure and something technological about it, Kip will focus on those aspects.
Well, I'm going to try to focus on it, but I'm going to do it the way I do my actual forcing. So that's the kind of she's going to try to hone in on it like she would on the future.
So out of character, I would say to you, this is a discipline check to successfully activate the holocron. Given all of you are force sensitive, it could be a cooperative skill check. If you would like to quickly figure out who has the highest willpower and the highest training and discipline, we can take the best of those two numbers. Okay, so you're going to be rolling as your cooperative check essentially 3 green dice and 2 yellow dice and 3 purple dice.
Bior.
Oh wow, very nice. 2 successes,
Wow.
1 threat, 1 triumph.
Boom.
Hell yeah.
So, as all of you sit, by the way, what is your posing during a meditative activity like this?
Jensa totally goes like back on her Padawan training, I'm sure. So, typical Jedi meditation.
Are we sitting around the table, or
That's
who's
what I'm asking.
holding
Each
it
of you
where?
tell me in your own way what you would be doing to center yourself.
I'm
like
probably
this.
sitting on the chair, but it's definitely like, you know, typical meditation pose. Her legs are crossed. Her
I'm
arms
off.
are resting
I'm
on her
off to the
knees.
side in a heel seat.
Tyrus is
Tyrus?
standing as tall as he possibly can, his fingers touching at their tips, eyes closed.
Forehead pointed
Alright.
towards the stage.
Yes. With my forehead vibrating at a middle C, actually.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
His homeworld's choral skills are amazing. You've not lived until you've seen his race perform.
Toccata
So
and
as you-
fugue in D minor.
Yeah,
As you
Kip
do
is
this-
sitting down at the table, sort of staring intently at the processing chips, and sort of has a faraway look in his eye as because what he's doing is he's actually mentally sort of projecting that into 3D space. Like that's what he's doing. He's like sort of picturing it and then holding it in front of himself so he can rotate it in his mind.
Okay. Okay, it's very, very Tony Stark-like, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you guys do this, for a moment, you can feel almost this harmonization, which you have definitely never felt before. Each of you individually has probably tried in some way to reach out to the Force when you were discovering yourselves, but you have never
Yep, yep.
actually harmonized your centering, your meditation in a group like this, and you can literally feel each other's power in the Force, and you
Does that
kind
mean
of
Kip
fall
is aware of
into-
us?
Well, Kip would feel it. I'm not sure how his mind processes it yet, but he definitely would feel it, and he would feel
That's the
kind of
best
a
way to get him
tuning.
to come around.
And in this
Does it-
moment, where it all harmonizes into sort of this single note, let's just say Tyrus's forehead middle C. At that moment, you see the holocron lift further off the table and begin spinning more quickly. And the small little facets on the dodecahedron actually kind of slightly separate from each other. And a blue holographic light emits. And in front of you, and this time it would be on the table due to the positioning of the holocron, you see a 3-dimensional holographic likeness of Master Nouen. He is standing.
I'm not sure I understand.
You just
Frickin'
cut out.
Siri just activated in the middle of me talking. Siri, for some reason, thought I was talking to her.
Big brother.
And as you see this three-dimensional holographic form of Master Nouen kind of come into being on the table, you see him actually look at each one of you and regard you as if he's aware of you. And he says, "Very good, my children. You've taken your first step in this journey on the Force."
I immediately shoot my attention over to Bior and say, "Is this an AI?"
This is the thing that freaks me out.
Actually, Master Nouen's hologram would respond to you, Jensa. "I am an artificial intelligence in a form, but I am not a free-thinking being. I am rather a collection of the thoughts and experiences of your master, imbued partially with some aspects of his personality. I constructed this holocron. It is a talent that, in this time now, is probably lost to the ages. But due to my experience on Coruscant in the temple, I was educated on how to do this. And incidentally, I had the assistance of Eladir in the short time that I was with him. He helped me imbue this holocron with some of my personality as well as my knowledge. My hope is that in the event that you lost me somehow, I could continue to educate you in my physical absence."
"You're hurt. We don't know what's wrong with you." And I proceed to explain what happened through the holocron, and what is some kind of toxins in your system, in the hopes that it might actually know what the heck you've been poisoned with.
Well, actually, since Master Nouen himself had a career as a physician throughout his whole life.
Yeah, I know, that's exactly the point. And worked with that crazy droid.
He reacts to it in a kind of detached, almost clinical way. He sort of refers to it as, "Oh, fascinating. I did not anticipate that KR8 was an enemy. The toxin that you referred to was a Felucian Alcea toxin, is that what you said?"
I look at Bior for confirmation since he actually has a medical degree.
Did we ever even know what it was?
Yes, you did. You made a medicine check, and
okay.
And I think I made an education check as well, and we knew
that was
more
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
he would respond
to the hologram.
He would respond by saying, "Well, that does not bode well for me then, sadly, for there are few who survive such poisoning. It has a progressive deteriorating effect on the central nervous system. To my knowledge, there is no easily available antidote. Given that Felucia is a distant outer rim planet, the core worlds would have little concern about synthesizing.
Well, it just so happens we're in the vicinity of that area. So what fixes this?
I would think either an underworld figure or a military power would probably be the two most likely to have access to synthesis of such rare antitoxins. I would pursue either contact that you have in those areas.
That's what we're currently on the way to do, so.
This holocron will serve to educate you and answer questions that you have with regards to the Force. Anything that Master Nouen himself, of course, would have known, he would have placed this knowledge in my memory core. I can educate you in the ways of the Force, in the ways of combat. You merely need to explore the depths of this item fully. And as you explore, it will challenge you. It will challenge your connection to the Force, your sense of mental discipline and focus. Some knowledge will come easily, others you will have to work considerably at to unlock. But at least I can be here to guide you in some respect.
This is a very beautiful gift. I'm not saying that out loud. But she's just gonna kind of get up and go back to her room for a little bit without any explanation or comment, and let the other people play with it.
So,
And as you walk out of the room, Jensa, he looks in that direction for the brief moment, and then kind of sort of tilts his head and looks away, perhaps displaying a odd, like, lack of emotion that you might have otherwise expected from the human.
Yeah, she's having a moment. She's upset.
a real quick question: was anyone
to have that moment?
No one was handling the holocron. Is that correct? This is Dan.
No one
asking.
touched it. All of this was done from a distance of at least a few feet.
Right. So this is what's having. Kip is frowning at all of this now. He is. If anyone were good at reading other people, they would realize that he's a little shaken because this
Kip,
makes no sense.
do me a favor. Roll a average difficulty cool check, please.
Okay.
So, even though you're very distressed by the implications of what you're seeing, and perhaps not even willing to internalize the meaning of it, you kind of are able to refocus yourself. Although you're left with a slight feeling of anxiety that is hard for you to quiet.
Yes, this is troubling because he can't figure out how we turned it on.
So now I turn to Kip and say, what you have just seen is undeniably real. What you have just seen does not follow any logic which you currently understand. This is what I meant by keeping an open mind. There may be factors of which you're still unaware that would explain your special abilities.
Kip sort of distractedly sort of nods, like he hears you, but he's sort of staring at the holocron and the holographic projection. But yeah, he's nodding like I hear you, but
It's not soaking in yet.
right.
So I immediately turn toward the holocron and say, Master, as someone who has pursued a lifetime of education, how do we begin our lessons and how to develop and harness our abilities?
Each time you wish to delve deeper into the knowledge of the holocron, I would wish that you center your mind on that which you choose to understand, and attempt to quiet your thoughts and your focus on yourself, and instead reach out to the Force. And in so doing, I will do my best to aid you in that exploration.
When do we begin?
Well, out of character, given that you all have at least a good, 14 hours left before you reach your destination, you can choose to spend that however you like. Perhaps it should include at some point a good 8 hours of sleep, because you would be fatigued at this point from your excessive physical carrying on for the last couple days. But yes, you guys have time to do as you wish.
And before we go to rest, I turn to Bior and say, be a good fellow and heal my wounds, would you?
It totally sounded like you quoted Secret Pets. Be a good fellow and bet you a stick.
And make me a gin and tonic while you're at it.
Could I say no?
Be a lamb and lick my wounds.
You can say whatever you want, Bior.
That takes it too far.
Oh my god, that was awesome.
Hey, that's the kind of life Tyrus is accustomed to, right?
Exactly.
By the way, Bior, take a moment. Take a moment and describe for us what your facial expression would be upon hearing that. What your character's facial expression would be upon hearing that.
Upon hearing what Tyrus just said?
Yes.
What?
Well, it would just be like a very stone-faced, barely noticeable smirk, like the corner of the sides of one of my the side of my mouth just curls up just a little bit, because I know that was funny, and I know him well enough that I know he's messing with me.
And I look and I perceive.
That's what I wanted to know. I want to know if Bior has a good sense of humor. Okay.
Yeah. I realize that I've just created a link with Bior, and I just nod to him.
Very well.
So Bior, go ahead and
man.
make a medicine check if you choose to do as he asks. He is less than half of his wound threshold, so I believe that's an easy check for you, if I'm not mistaken. Humph.
That sucks.
Let's see, hang on. I think you only heal one wound for that.
Hold up, man.
So Tyrus just raises an eyebrow and says, "Oh, well done."
And you're probably not quite sure. You're probably not quite sure whether that was a substandard degree of effort as a backhanded slap for your way of talking to him, or if he really just kind of.
Tyrus, I'm doing what I can here, but I can definitely make this much worse.
Point taken, sir.
How about if I use my heal ability, my force ability?
Yes, you can do that. You would roll your two force dice. So you fail the check unless you want to use that result.
I'll use it.
Yeah, so after he's kind of taunted you a little bit, and even though you kind of smirk at it, there's some undercurrent inside you that's slightly resentful at his lack of respect and your ego. And even though you would like to quiet it, you kind of draw a sort of energy out of it. And you'll take 2 strain. And in so doing, you heal a number of wounds equal to your intellect for each one of those 2 points. So I think your intellect is 2, so you heal a total of 4.
Right.
Woohoo! And Tyrus, as you feel this warm effusion in you, it's thrust upon you in maybe a slightly aggressive fashion, as if maybe to slightly startle you internally. And you see that same little smirk on Bior's face.
Is that better?
That better, bitch. Tyrus,
And
you should now be
I
at
just
full
turn
health.
and I try to decide which way I want to roll this. So I just give him a short, sort of courteous bow.
I give him a head nod.
What rooms are other people staying in?
So was this done? This was done in the common area where we all are, right? So
You were all in room 8 until Jensa moved to room 6.
right.
Yeah, Jensa's
So-
claimed room 6 as captain.
What did Kip see? Like, how damaged were you, Tyrus? Did he see like wounds, like basically knit themselves and bruises go away? Like, what did Kip see?
He was roughly one third of his wound threshold, so this would be significant enough bruises and cuts, but not any kind of severe life-threatening wounds.
My
and you would
right
literally
ear
see
was hanging off by a thread.
You would see sort of like purpura and bruising disappear on his skin, and cuts sort of slowly mend themselves back together.
Okay, Kip is gonna roll another cool check.
Go ahead and do that.
Hey, I added those 2 conflict on myself.
And is that
Ali,
difficulty
can I
2?
give him a boost on the cool check?
I'll be right back.
Not unless you could explain how you're doing it.
I have started to understand the structure as a immune. Our ability is to analyze and understand the nature of how people process. So I turn and look at Kip and give him a steady, knowing gaze, saying, you know, we understand this is confusing, but we are here to help you.
Yes, then you could. What is your willpower?
My
Tyrus?
willpower is infinite. Hang on. It's a 2. 2.
And your cool is not trained. So,
But it's a career skill.
okay, so let's just say, Kip, just add 1 blue boost dice because he's not
Okay.
trained in that skill.
Because I'm doing this for a reason. I want to use our link to try to calm him.
God damn, you're really good.
Yeah. So in addition,
You're rolling
by
deep.
itself.
in addition to you actually somehow feeling more at ease with what you just witnessed, you rolled sort of through advantage. You actually, which is very hard for you, by the way, you actually feel a slight sense of camaraderie and trust with Tyrus, which you definitely would not be used to in your previous daily life.
Right. Yeah, no, so Kip is locked on like gaze with you, and he's sort of like nodding. He's no longer like scowly frown like he was previously, but he's still sort of like he's taking, you can tell like he's taking your other words earlier, like keep an open mind, you might see, like you feel, you sense that he's actually now for the first time taking that to heart.
When I'm looking at him with a steady, measured gaze, and Kip can see that the link that we formed when we used the holo device is starting to affect me as well, as someone who thought trust and cooperation was simply a negotiation tool. I'm also feeling an increasing sense of a linkage to you and to all the other people on this ship, which I find equally unsettling. But I give you a look that cements the idea that we are both coming into something new, but we're coming into it together.
Nice. Yes.
And then we go down the little hollow chute, and then we refresh ourselves.
Understood.
While after I calm down, so I'm going to. Jensa probably had several emotional moments there, but a little panic anxiety over the thought of Master Nouen dying, and she definitely didn't want to see anybody see that happen. So, and post-traumatic stress sort of issues. So when she calms down, I'm going to foresight on specifically the cure, to the best of my ability. Going to focus in on Master Nouen and see what I can see in the future. She's been kind of avoiding looking into the future lately because she was really worried something terrible was going to happen to him, but now something terrible has happened, so...
Okay, so it says foresee the effect, reveal vague hints of a user's near future and up to a day in advance, and you can pick out a specific detail per rank. Okay, and see an additional day in advance, and oh wow, you've upgraded this. Okay, so go ahead and what's your force rating? It's 1, isn't it, or 2?
Albie?
It's 2. Oh yeah, sorry, I was pushing the wrong button. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
Okay, so I was just reviewing the 4C rules.
I keep forgetting she could see the future.
Yeah, I was actually pushing the window button instead of my push to talk button, so I'm just
I've done that before,
I'm like
too.
blabbering
Kirk's
on
like,
for a minute.
No. I
okay,
did that the other day, and Kirk's like, they can't hear you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad you said something. It would have been like 4 minutes into my exposition. Okay, so go ahead and roll 2 force dice to represent your force rating of 2. As you, in the privacy of your quarters, are closing your eyes and attempting to reach out to an innate
And
ability.
I will use a light side point if that's okay.
Destiny point?
Yes.
Let's see. How does that work with this?
Yeah.
In this case, a destiny point would not have an effect on a force roll. Okay, so first of all, you basically rolled 2 successes and 2 failures. You can just use the 2 successes you got, or if you choose to channel the dark side, you can get all 4. What do you like?
I'm gonna go for all 4. She's emotional. Okay. She's not pulling from the best place right now.
And Kip just called you and all of you love terrorists. Like,
yeah, I know.
3 hours ago.
Kip hit like post-traumatic trigger number 1, and then the hologram basically was the other. And hearing that Master Nouen is probably going to die from what he's been poisoned with would be the like straw that broke the camel's back, which is why she left to go into her room. She probably cried hysterically for about 20 minutes and then took a deep breath and cleared her mind and tried to use the force. So I would assume she would use it all.
Yeah, okay, so that actually makes a lot of sense. So as you're reaching out to this sort of innate sense you have, where you close your eyes and you envision something almost staring off into the distance to something others can't see, you're still so shaken from your grief and having to see Master Nouen in the form that you just saw him, just reminding you of this loss. You feel a little bit of a sense of anger, and you channel that. You just lean right into it. And as you do, you are able to kind of see this shuddering flying by of images before you, faster than you can even process. And as an aside, you basically have four force points to spend on this. So you are able to pick out specific details and see a couple days in advance, as a matter of fact, and see essentially to I'll allow to a different system than you're in, because you're in hyperspace, and we'll talk about sort of planetary scale instead of personal scale here. So as you're watching these images fly by, the colors and movements, they're so fast they're almost motion blur. And all of a sudden, almost like kind of like you'd see in the Matrix, you see these lines kind of come down and start forming coherent shapes. And you see this very large frigate, this very advanced large starship, and you're seeing images of Master Nouen in surgery with a bunch of medical droids around him. You see actually his skull is opened, and they're doing some kind of neurosurgery on him with lasers. And it's a little traumatic to see that, and you almost kind of shudder those images away in a frustration, as it's not really what you wanted to see right now. And as you do, you see a few flickering images of a Bothan entering with a black briefcase. And he clearly doesn't look like those around him. You see a lot of rebel uniforms, but this guy is dressed in a long black trench coat, and he looks really more like an underworld figure than anything else. But
I hear
he comes in and
about the Bothans.
he opens the case, and you see a series of vials in there. And as he opens it, the medical droids turn to regard him for a moment, and suddenly it washes out, and you feel yourself kind of drifting back into your mind, and you open your eyes.
I'm going to set to memory that Boffin's face, and since I'm wide awake right now anyway, because we did just rest, it's basically early morning for us, I am going to go up front, and I am going to do everything possible to make this ship go as fast as it can.
Now, technically, none of you have actually gone to sleep yet. Is that what you're doing?
Oh, I thought
now?
this was after we slept.
No, actually, no one has slept yet. You're about 3 or 4 hours into the journey, so basically, at some point, you need to sleep.
Okay, she's probably going to go to sleep at that point then.
Okay,
Because we
so
do need rest. We've been up for over a day.
Any other immediate activities anyone wants to attend to before you rest?
Nope.
I'm gonna let my idiot dog.
Has anyone checked the ship's computers to see if there's any useful information for us?
No, computers and I don't get along.
Assume that Victor is present on the ship, even though he's not physically present.
Yes.
And he would be able to assist you in looking up whatever information you would be interested in. Given that you are traveling down a minor space lane, you still have access to the HoloNet, which means essentially, you know, your quote-unquote internet hookup is active right now. So
I immediately, before I lay my forehead down on a pillow, I start a search.
you must have a big pillow. Sorry, I was just
It's more of a tombstone. It's
The same thing.
we start to drill down and see if there's been any information about this mysterious crate, any information that might help us understand what he's up to.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a roll on behalf of
Victor?
Victor, El Victor. Alright, so he has computers. I assume you're looking for information not readily available on the Star Wars equivalent of a Google search, right?
No, this would definitely be some shady lanes, and that's why Victor would be the ideal person, because he is shady professionally.
Okay, so Victor, as he sits down for a good 15 minutes, you hear him kind of cursing at the terminal, and you know, even though he's able to pull up a number of commonly and easily found HoloNet articles about the Shrouded Bane, including terrorist activity, poisoning of food supplies, assassinations of political targets, destabilization of corporations, all these things that they've been involved in. All of a sudden, while he's attempting to kind of look into some private records of corporations or shell companies that have had dealings with them, all of a sudden you see his screen kind of lock up, and there's all these sort of crazy characters that skip all over it, and you see printed out on the screen, "Nice try," and the computer kind of crashes on the ship. You have no HoloNet access for a short while, as the virus needs to be dealt with.
Oh my god.
Dirty, dirty virus. So, how do I go about this when the HoloNet finally comes up with Tyrus's background in finance, and with the Mune having fingers in every Rebel as well as Empire account, and knowing where the money goes and handling it for both sides? I would like to try to drill down and figure out where they're getting their money and how it moves.
Okay, so when you have access to, on your travels, when you find access to any sort of large corporate database or repository of financial information or banking center, I will allow Victor to repeat a similar check, and he will get a bonus based on your knowledge and assistance.
Great.
However, that would not be something... Yeah, you'll need to be somewhere where there's some valuable data to be had.
A galactic ATM.
Yeah, I would say any corporate
Are you robbing
computer
Nobius'
system.
credits?
No, it was his dying.
Oh, by the way,
it was his,
by the way, I
his
checked.
breathing rich. As he started to frost up, the last thing he sent me as an image is, please, all of you, take my credits, buy something nice for yourselves that shoots bullets.
I'm just gonna
A hero to the end.
gonna gaslight herself into believing that she heard him say that to you.
No, it was mental. It was purely.
Oh, okay.
It was an unexpected flash of insight and realization.
I will
I
totally
love you
believe
guys.
that.
And then he said, "Let me not be defrosted in vain."
And then the room exploded.
What was that? He's like a gas station burrito. It's burnt on the outside, frozen on the inside.
That's awesome.
Hey guys, I'm pretty sure that Nobi was gonna be a Sith, but we should probably acknowledge he's dead. So,
Nobi, we hardly knew ye.
yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay, so while Victor stays up to try and
planet he's from. Was he a Mandalorian? I'm not sure.
Was he human?
he spent a lot of time on Naboo. I'm not sure if any of you would have found that out, but possibly.
No, we
so.
had no clue.
So while you guys get rest, Victor's gonna stay up and try and repair the failure of the computer systems that just happened due to the virus that he incidentally incurred on the ship's computer systems.
Space herpes.
Yes, he got the computer equivalent of space herpes by sticking his data spike where it doesn't belong.
Without protection. He should have had a surge protector wrapped around it.
Okay, so as everyone's going to sleep now, I am going to ask everyone except Bior and Jensa to take a 10-minute break. So look at the clock and come back in exactly 10 minutes.
Okay.
The two of you, I want you to click over into the second chat room, which is called Cone of Silence. Please do that now. All right, so the two of you lay your head down to sleep. And by the way, neither of you are aware that the other is sort of sharing in this consciousness. But as you lay to sleep, you drift into a deep slumber, darkness overtaking you, as peaceful oblivion gives a much-needed respite to the fear and the loss that you feel deep in your heart. Peace, silence, and blackness ensue. Bior, in your experience in life, you have been a companion and a guardian and a hired protector for a great many people. And you have noticed in your journeys that when someone has been your ward, when you have been charged to protect them, you have felt a kind of oneness with that person in the time you were with them. And you have even shared in some of their thoughts and dreams during those times. So it has not been unheard of for you to, on your journeys, in your dreams, see that which another who you are charged to protect, you are able to see their dreams occasionally as well. Jensa, you are very accustomed to reaching out into the blurry haze of things that have not yet happened, and
Whether I want to or not.
whether you want to or not, and to try and see them. And always when you do, they are blurry, out of focus, rapidly moving, hard to resolve. However, in this case, your experience is so crystal clear. It is unlike that which you've really seen in foresight, and it leads you to suspect that this is a different experience altogether. But as you both begin to feel your body falling, as all of your nerve endings light up with a sense of panic, you can't seem to awaken, yet you have this sense of falling, and your heartbeat increases. And ahead of you, you see this brilliant red pinpoint of light, burning, searing into your mind. It's so bright. And as you fall towards this red pinpoint, the light begins to expand forward, bathing you in an overwhelming warmth, a heat even, as the redness morphs into a burning orange yellow. Your vision actually begins to clear. And as it does, you are on a vast expanse of yellow sand dunes, set against a burning orange sunset. Wind whips around you violently as the sand stings your face.
Immediately think I'm having some sort of horrible nightmare from that crap moon forever.
It is a wild, untamed waste dotted with ancient temples, hollow shells of old civilizations, old idols. A bright sunset is visible in front of you as you survey this valley of the monuments to ancient kings, terrible despots of unthinkable power, now no more than forgotten whispers on the winds. And although you've never been here, you just know what it is you're seeing. It's Korriban, the ancient birthplace of the Sith. You see a freighter landed on the sands. A lone figure completely covered, wrapped in layers of cloth to protect his body from the violent wind and heat, walks from the ship. Footprints dotting the sand and then being erased by the elements. You feel his consciousness, walking slowly, patiently, determined. He proceeds with a final determination. You know he's strong as Durasteel, yet he walks inexorably, slowly, impossibly lonely, but humming with this tight energy ready to uncoil at a moment's notice. He has waited for this moment a long, long time. Time stretches and contracts dizzyingly as you forget how long you've been watching him. It could be days or minutes.
What
proceeds
is
in the
observable about him aside? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what is observable? What can we tell about him? Is it a human? Is it a race?
You cannot tell. He's
just get a sense that it's male.
He's tall and broad in form, but he's covered entirely in wrapped cloth to protect his face and skin from the elements.
Human range height?
Yeah, he could be human.
Tall for human?
If so, he'd be a taller human, yes.
Okay.
And he would proceed into the husk of a forgotten temple. As he walks into this temple, darkness obscures him. He raises up a hand, and as he does, out of his hand springs a dancing golden flame, which bursts fiercely from his open hand. Dancing defiantly against the darkness, he navigates the temples, every secret, every trap, like a well-choreographed dance. Nothing. So as he proceeds through this temple, and he ducks, dodges, rolls, and spins like a dervish easily around every one of these dangerous and deadly traps, he moves almost with a grace, like an ancient treasure hunter seeking to sort of pillage the depths of this place. He moves through the facility until he comes finally to this large sarcophagus with a glowing red crystal lodged in its heart. Its visage wicked and twisted. The sarcophagus looks evil. It must have been the remains of the Sith king interred in this temple. And as the man approaches, the eyes of the sarcophagus light up, and from its grinning mouth a purple wisp of energy seeps out and coalesces into a pure-blood Sith in ceremonial robes. The red crystal in the heart of the sarcophagus pulsates slowly and glows, apparently the source of energy for this apparition. The traveling man kneels before the ghost. Fists were slightly clenched in this sort of silent anger, as if this act of deference to this figure is pure torture for him. Suddenly the ghost speaks.
My apprentice, I trust you have learned you cannot escape from me. The price of my teachings was made clear. Eternal servitude to the Sith, to my glory. Your attempt to flee is futile. My curse will follow you to the end of days, seeping every joy from your life and robbing you of all that you love, should you fail to honor my eminence.
Honor my, you cut out.
Eminence.
Okay.
I have not fled, Master. To flee the inevitable is weakness, it is folly. I have sought wisdom and power. I know the price of your curse, and in my blood it has been paid. My time away from Korriban has cost the lives of my wife, my sons, my tribe. Whether by untimely accident, terrible plague, or the ravages of murder, misfortune has followed in my footsteps like a shadow, laying low all that I hold dear. But it was a price I had to pay. And the ghost replies,
You fool! Your return can only mean that you are finally ready to submit, to provide me the vessel I need to return to this life and carry my legacy back into the world.
And the man replies, No, Master. I have come to teach you something as you have taught me. All of the lessons I have learned, whether from the Jedi Order years long ago, or from the Sith. Only one lesson stands above all others as a universal truth. As the blood of everyone I ever loved has been paid in this final lesson, I return to share it with you.
And what is that, my foolish apprentice?
The man replies, Dogma keeps us chained. Whether it's to a king, a government, to the Jedi or the Sith, it's all the same. Power is the empty promise of dogma. I have no need for it, for freedom is the only true power. And the ghost seethes with anger upon hearing this and says,
Freedom is out of reach, you fool. Freedom only comes from dominance.
And the man calmly replies, Not so, Master. And he holds forward his hand where you saw the burning flame earlier, and the flame coalesces into a tiny orange ember that appears impossibly bright. And he says, Behold the ember of Arinth. As you said, my hunt for this treasure cost me dearly. It carried me across the stars to the deep core of the galaxy, where few have trod and survived. I sacrificed all my mortal possessions, my loves, all my bonds, which conveniently satisfied both your curse and this artifact's price. And now that it serves me, its gift is to ignite all the shackles that bind me, either metaphorical or physical, in one glorious burning cataclysm. For the rest of my days I will roam the stars, free as the wind that dances across the desert sands, following the will of no one but my own. And as he says this, he thrusts the ember into the glowing red crystal on the sarcophagus as terror grips the expression of the ghost. The ember embeds into the crystal and fractures it. Glowing as bright as 1,000 suns, flames engulf the sarcophagus. The walls, the statues, the treasures, everything in the temple burns in an inferno. Yet not a single flame burns the man who stands defiantly in the conflagration. The ghost evaporates as his shout dissolves into the echoes. The crystal detonates in the sarcophagus and the shards explode violently outward into the man's face, rending the cloth that covers his face and tearing a deep gash extending from his left eye across his nose to his lower right jaw. A shard of the crystal embedded in the socket of his destroyed eye, no longer red but now glowing a golden orange. The man calmly pulls it from his bleeding eye socket, grips it in his fist, and says, I am free. I will forge you into my new weapon, a burning symbol of freedom. You shall be Sirocco. Forever forward may you only be wielded by the fiercest of free spirits. I shall wander the stars, filling the empty vessel of my soul with new joy, new love, and new mystery, and I shall bow to no man evermore.
Your up again.
Whoa.
And I shall bow to no man evermore. And as he turns towards you, you see his Zabrak features, much younger in this vision than when you saw him. The fresh gaping wound across his face becoming a jagged scar you now clearly remember. This was Jagasan's journey, the man that you shot in the back.
I was right to shoot him. He was a Sith. I even feel more vindicated now.
He was
Very cool
actually,
story.
he was Jedi and he was Sith.
He was a gray Jedi.
He had been Jedi and he had been Sith both. So you
Jensen
awaken.
does not know these things. Jensen has decided he is Sith. I have to reinforce.
Well, I mean, you would know simply because you heard him say that he was trained by the Jedi as well.
Yeah.
So you awaken suddenly, Jensa. Bior, at this point, you sort of get pulled out of this memory and return to the blackness of sleep. And you're not sure, really, if this was merely a dream or anything more. And Jensa,
I was
you
not
awake,
aware that he was there. So.
You awake. No, you were not aware at all that he was there.
Okay.
You awake suddenly, sitting up in your bunk, covered in sweat. You feel your face is almost sunburned, although when you touch it, it's cool as it always was. And even though you kind of feel like a gritty discomfort, as if maybe there's like sand in your clothes, you kind of like look around and feel, and that sensation kind of evaporates and disappears.
The cold
and as you
of
reach
space
into,
kind of settles in.
And as you're kind of coming to, you hear a voice in your mind, and it echoes this sort of concept of only being carried by the fiercest of free spirits. And you come to the understanding that this weapon that you now have again, inside of it, the crystal, is actually the expended Ember of Aranth that he had been carrying. And it has a will unto itself. You come to an intuitive understanding that the weapon will only permit itself to be carried by one who does not bow to any dogma. And in that understanding, the weapon is now yours if you choose to carry it until such a time as you violate that covenant, in which case you have a sense that it will cease to respond to you. And with that, we can jump back into the main room. So as you guys sort of wake up from sleep, you feel refreshed. You are now recharged and ready to face another day. And as you do, Jensa, the controls in the cockpit begin to emit a pinging that you can hear.
I'm gonna set the saber on my desk, and I'm gonna go up to the cockpit.
You see an indication that you're about to leave hyperspace.
I'm going to slide in my chair. I'm going to take in a deep breath to calm down. I'm gonna hit whatever button makes the replicated. There's a coffee maker up front, right? Like that's a standard feature on a starship. Please.
Yes, they have some name for coffee in Star Wars. I have to look up what it is again. But yes.
For some reason, I have some vague memory of like Han Solo being able to get coffee in the cockpit, but that might just be wishful thinking on my part.
Yeah, there's some coffee equivalent in Star Wars. I'll find out the name of what it is again.
Yeah, it needs to be in the cockpit. But I'm going to get myself the coffee equivalent and slide into the chair. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to try to shake off that vision. And then I am going to type in over the comms. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to arrive at our destination. I hope everyone slept well. And I'm going to take over manually from this point on.
So as you come out of hyperspace, the ship leaves hyperspace as you see all the stars go from streaks back to the points of light, motes of light that you're used to seeing. And as you leave hyperspace in the Zygeria system, you see ahead of you a large transport on the comms. And instantly you get a ping of a hailing signal. and a voice comes across asking, "Unidentified vessel, please identify yourself."
Who's hailing us?
This would be the transport full of people from Duskin's Cove, which would include the Hellions and all the residents that left Duskin's Cove.
So
including
I'd be
your dear
able
friend
to...
Granville.
What? Dear friend who?
Granville.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you snapped that again. I am going to identify our vessel and say it's. I guess we don't have like a group name or anything yet. So, yeah, I'm going to identify the vessel and say that I am Jensa. We have business with individuals on the ship, and I will mention Grayson's name.
Aaron Seeker, you are cleared to dock in Hangar Bay 2, and the coordinates appear, so you'll be able to navigate to it.
Thank you.
Jensa, I'd like you to make a average difficulty piloting check for the docking.
Uh-oh.
And I'll botch it. Boom! No!
Feel free to use a destiny point.
Only if I mess it up.
Tyrus has so much faith in your abilities.
I just had this thing detailed.
I have made we took no damage in our last crash because of my piloting, and the crash was not my fault. How many purple tips?
2 purple dice. Okay, so
This is so confusing.
Failure,
So,
but
okay,
it was
so-
a spectacular failure.
so there's no success on the roll, but you got 4 advantage. So as you make your first pass, your angle of approach is very awkward, and I feel like you are probably still shaken from your dreams last night, and you kind of realize that you're going to not quite make a clean entrance into the ship, so you pull away and then turn around to make a second pass as you kind of feel your face burning slightly with maybe a little bit of self-consciousness, and you get 2 blue dice on the second go around. So add 2 boost dice on the same check again. So this time you
I make it look like I did it on purpose.
So yeah, this time you fly in with such elegant grace. You actually kind of do a corkscrew turn as you're coming in, and then come out of the corkscrew right at the perfect leveling as you enter the hangar bay and put the ship down. And you feel pretty satisfied that you proved something. And as the ship touches down, there's sort of a hiss as the hydraulics on the landing gear connect, and the force field winks back in to block the vacuum of space from the interior of the chamber. And a crew comes out. They're like a bunch of ragtag sort of people. You don't like the looks of them. They're all kind of like scrubby sorts. They're not like a professionally trained deck crew.
Yeah, don't touch
and they all
my
kind
ship, I say.
Yeah, they all kind of run up around the ship and are like waiting for you to come out.
I'm gonna kind of whip my hair into a quick ponytail as I kind of jog towards the back of the ship to find Tyrus, and I'm gonna say, we need to find a Bothan ahead of Vision. And then, who's going off? Who's staying on?
Well, before we leave the ship, I'm going to try to contact our good friend Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah.
Foghorn Leghorn.
Master Nouen's going to need
Holiday.
Shady and Bothan.
Yeah. Is Halliday on this transport?
Yeah, he's here.
Because we have some business together.
Yeah, we've got a bit of business. Kip, do you want to come with us, or you want to stay on board?
Would you like me to fix the hull, ma'am?
You can, but you can come with us too. It's up to you.
What would you like me to do, patron? I mean, ma'am.
I want you to do what you want to do, Kip.
Oh.
I will go with you, ma'am.
All right.
Okay, so as you lower the rear hatch on the ship and it lowers down and connects with the floor, you're met by three kind of scruffy-looking figures there, who greet them, welcome you to the transport, and basically ask if you're interested in resupply, refueling, anything like that.
Not right now. Don't touch my ship. And I'm locking.
We'll talk later.
I hit the keychain.
yeah, exactly. Is anyone staying on the ship, or is everybody getting off?
Victor's staying on the ship.
Yeah, Victor's still trying to fix the hack that got incurred on the computers there. So
Right.
If you remember when we got the ship, the first thing I did was like key code the crap out of it. So.
And I'm going to say
it's
I'm going
been
to tell
keyed
Bior
to
that given
Jensa,
that we're going
so...
to a medical bay, we should probably all go together.
Yeah. Okay, good. So yeah, let's just all go.
You guys all have access to get on and off, but the controls are specifically locked until I'm on the ship.
Ooh.
So don't touch the
I
steering
just
wheel,
wanted
boys.
it so that like they have to have me to make it to turn the car on. You know, you can get in and out to get your stuff, but
child safety locks. We understand.
Well, it reduces like hostage situations and things like that too, unless I'm taken hostage, I guess. But Jensa feels like she'd see that coming.
I would feel very bad for the person who tries to take Jensa hostage because she will annihilate them. So as you deboard the ship, the rear hatch lifts completely and closes, and you hear a locking mechanism kind of engage as the three guys who are kind of there look at each other for a minute, and one of them shakes their head and they kind of walk off. And Tyrus, you get a sort of the equivalent of a text message as your datapad pings. There's sort of a HoloNet message where Granville says that he is currently in one of the hangar decks, and he'd like to see you when you have a moment.
So I'm going to suggest to Jensen that she finally tries to find out where the master is while I go talk to Holiday.
He's not here, right? We know he's on a different transport. We know.
Oh, that was the question. I didn't know where is
he?
Yeah,
you
we
were
know
told
where
by
he is.
Kiara Jeth that she was taking him on the Mercy to a larger rebel hospital frigate.
And she gave us coordinates.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
and it's in the Tyon cluster, which is a little further along the hyperspace lane from where you are.
Okay. So, first order of business is to talk to Halliday about our finances.
All right. So you follow.
We also
his
need to
coordinates.
find a cure for our master. So, but yes, finances are important.
Well, do we know the content of Jensa's vision about the master?
I'm gonna kind of tell you as we're walking, and Bior obviously too, because I don't know Bior overheard it, and Kip's gonna overhear it. So.
Oh, good. No, I'd rather you tell it.
Yeah, no, she doesn't know you saw it too. Oh, no, she's not talking about that. She's not talking about the lightsaber thing. She's talking about what she saw before the lightsaber thing. So Bior actually.
When you saw the master having his brain surgery and then.
Yeah. I saw an underbelly figure, some kind of Bothan. He didn't look like the rebel people. He looked like somebody unscrupulous, which Victor has a lot of those kind of contacts, I say.
But also they were carrying a case full of vials of something special.
Yeah, I described the case as best detail as I can provide, and any sort of like identifying markers on this individual, the Bothan, that I could remember, like.
Yeah, you would remember his fur coloration and patterns of markings and things like that.
Yeah, I'll relay that as best as possible to Tyrus with as much accurate detail as possible. Because Jensa's kind of like, she's used this ability to survive, so she's picks up on like as much detail as possible, right?
Mm-hmm. So do we have any ability to contact this frigate that the master is on?
I think
you have Kiara's HoloNet address. equivalent of her email address, and when you're closer than you are now, you're very far from where they are at the moment. When you're closer, you can actually hail her on the communications. But.
Tyrus, I think maybe we could find somebody here.
Well, we could send her an email, so to speak, asking for a status update, because I'm wondering if the Bothan is waiting for money to turn over the cure, which he may or may not have in that black briefcase.
He could already be there, but he could be somebody that we're gonna get contact with through our contacts here. So
possibly.
It's confusing. The futures never tells me point A to point B. I just see what's gonna happen. So.
Well, off to Halliday it is.
But ma'am, if it's going to happen, how are you going to change it?
Well, usually it's kind of complicated, Kip, but a lot of times I don't. I just manipulate the situation when it comes up because I know how it's going to play out. And I never see, the future doesn't end. It's never an end to the story, so I never see past generally a few days unless something really bad's going on. And I can get echoes from things that happened a long time ago, or things that might happen or might never happen, and it's odd sometimes sorting out when the sequence of events occurred. It's like sitting on the surface of a lake during a rainstorm. There's lots of ripples, and it's hard to tell where the origin of each individual drop is, if that makes sense.
And also, Kip, think of life as you would a circuit board. When you reach a junction, you have choices in which direction to go in. Jensa sees only one of an infinite number of possibilities. Free choice will still define our outcome.
Thank you, Tyrus. That makes a lot of sense.
So as you guys continue walking down the corridors of this very large transport ship, you move into the the elevators. I think turbo lifts is a Star Trek term. I better be careful with that. You move into the lifts and
we're gonna have fans hating us, Albie. It's all you.
I know. I'm waiting for the internet
door,
hate mail.
There'll be pitchfork and torches right outside.
You go to the correct level on the lift, and as you debark on that floor, you wind through some of the hallways and come into another large hangar, and it's basically kind of like the equivalent of a tent city. This ship was, of course, stolen by the Hellions, and so a lot of the people they picked up just kind of eked out a little area of the ship to call their own. Brought a bunch of their junk or personal belongings, whatever you want to call it, and sort of set up a makeshift home area. And you actually see, remembering back to one of your early nights in Duskin's Cove, the humble lockers, which were those large cargo containers which had been repurposed into sort of rather beautifully appointed hotel rooms.
The worst hotel ever.
So as you make your way in here, you see Hornaday sort of talking to a group of people there. He's obviously engaged in some sort of transaction as you see some credits changing hands and he's exchanging goods. And as he sees you guys walk up, he says, "Oh, my friends, it's been too long since I've seen you. Welcome. Welcome to our new home."
Mr. Halliday, I see that you're well.
Tyrus, I am happy to see you alive and kicking again, though I would have no doubt you'd find your way to survive out of the numerous scrapes you find yourself in.
So what of the black box?
Well, I had to load up all my goods and equipment here, and I have a number of such locations across the Outer Rim where we sell goods, so I'm just going to pick up and move to another one of them.
At our last meeting, we had discussed a transaction, some crystals
by the way,
that we came
before
across.
you continue,
Yes.
Before you continue, Tyrus, can you roll for me, please, a hard vigilance check?
Let's see. I can remove, with my uncanny reaction, I can add a blue dice to my vigilance check.
Okay, go ahead and do that.
As
Hard
a seer, I'm
vigilance check.
particularly good at vigilance as well.
I welcome any of you to make this check if you like.
I would like to buy a vowel. Yeah, but
really?
it's giving me a little hand, and then no, hang on, got it. Finally came up. So hard difficulty with 1 blue dice.
You want us all to do this?
Whoever wants to.
So I remove a black square per rank or keen-eyed.
There's no particular setback against you on this because you're in plain sight of him basically.
And then I have
Tyrus?
uncanny reactions, so I add a blue square. What's that? A boost?
A boost dice. Yeah.
Yeah, you get the same thing I do. 1 blue boost.
Kip totally failed and has threats.
Oh god.
Okay, so basically Tyrus and Bior, you pick up when he says what he's going to do from this point forward. He clearly looks to be shifting his gaze quickly and making the pace of his speech more rapid and moving to change the subject a little bit. So you kind of feel like he's not being fully honest with you. But as he says that, Tyrus, you were moving on to ask him about something?
Well, first thing, before I have this discussion, I say, Mr. Halliday, would there be a place we could have a more private conversation? Because I'm imagining we're in this tent city. I don't want to be overheard.
Tyrus, sure, we can step over here in one of these tents. Are we gonna just leave your friends right here? It's kind of rude, wouldn't you say?
They're coming with us.
Oh, of course. Yeah, step over here. We got a tent right this way. He rounds a corner, and there's sort of a bunch of canvas kind of set up over some Durasteel poles, and he pulls you kind of behind the tent flaps, and you kind of have a small private space to discuss.
So let's see. I'd say, Mr. Halliday, we certainly have had an interesting time together. Have you had any chance to analyze the resin that we brought you?
Well, as I said,
By the way,
I have a
I'm
associate.
on like red alert, by the way.
Red alert?
What?
Yeah, I'm like super vigilant at the moment because of how I noticed how this guy reacted to us.
Okay.
Good idea.
So he says, I took the liberty of setting up a meeting as soon as you guys would get here with our friend Shuck Rodank, who you've previously met, of course, who might be able to help us in that regard. He had some news for both of you, for all of you.
Excellent news. Also, in our last meeting together at the Buxom Bantha, we discussed a few jewels that I wish to sell, some crystals. Have you managed to find a buyer?
Indeed I have. I have moved your crystals, sir.
And what price did they fetch?
Well, as I was able to move them at a price of 2,500 each, I do believe out of character you sold him 3.
Yes, indeed.
And he was taking a 5% commission.
Okay.
So you guys have 7,125 credits. So he actually kind of... He actually reaches to his data pad and enters his credentials to access his accounts, and he asks you to pull out your data pad, Tyrus.
Got it.
Whip it out, old friend.
With pleasure, sir.
And as he does, he keys in his authentication as a account transfer takes place, and you get a verification from your financial institution that you have received 7,125 credits, so please feel free to add that to your character sheet.
And then I actually
minus
immediately...
his fee, which he kept.
Yes.
And
So I immediately turn to my compatriots and immediately transfer to them 1,425 credits each, including Kip. And I say to Kip, I say to Kip, this may come in handy. My people have been doing high finance since the time of their infancy. I will be happy to serve as the gatekeeper, the custodian of our finances. I also know that if I miss even one penny, Jensa will shoot me.
Absolutely. I'm totally fine with this. I nod at the group and smile.
I'm a bleeder.
Easy target too, I say jokingly.
Yes, exactly. Now, does anyone else have anything that they wish to sell?
No,
We saw those silk robes.
Right.
I got nothing.
Oh, you still have those robes?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's right. Are you going to try and sell them to him again?
Well, we could just say, Mr. Granaday, we have a particular item of historical significance. Is there anyone you would know that would truly appreciate their value?
Well, as I told you before, I'm very aware of what those are worth. I'll give you 1,200 credits each for them.
1,200 per person?
1,200 credits for each one of the 2 robes, so a total of 2,400.
Oh, of the 2 robes. Okay. I'm
They
just
came
going to
in
look at
pair.
Jensa and say, up to you, madam.
If you think that's a fair price for them.
So now I'd like to do a little negotiation. So
So
that's
first tell me what
a
you're going to
skill.
say to him, and then I'll tell you what to roll.
I'll
Yes.
say, Mr. Granaday, out here in the Outer Rim, these are quite a rare commodity. I'm sure you know a collector, someone with special interest. I would be willing to offer you 5% as a commission, but really 1,200 wouldn't buy the ribbon around their frilly base.
That was pretty good, actually. Okay, so you're going to roll a negotiation check, and the difficulty is going to be 2 purple... Wait, hang on. Actually, the difficulty is just 2 red dice.
Okay, so then 2 reds, which is virtually impossible. Plus minus. What's the red triangle-y biohazard looking thing?
Okay, so you rolled 2 failures, 2 advantage, and a despair. So a despair is like rolling a critical failure.
All right.
So actually, he turns to you, Tyrus, and you see on his Deveronian face.
The second time we've failed at selling these robes, just saying.
Devilish features. He kind of strokes his goatee, looks at you for a moment, and says, "Tyrus, you know, you seem to take me for some kind of village idiot. I've been more than friendly to you guys, and yet you seem to think you can glad handle me anytime you want. So let me tell you how it works. Unless you have a better contact for selling your items, I suggest you take the price I offer you, and perhaps act a little grateful in the process."
So now...
And let's
I
say
wanna
I'll
turn
give
on
you
my charm.
2,200.
I have limited charm. 2,200 per robe? Or 2,200?
No, the price he's going to give you has gone down by a total of 200 credits.
So I'm just going to say, Mr. Halliday, for 2,200 I'll wear them myself. But you must understand, sir, we crash-landed on that rock. We are currently attempting to resume our normal places in the world. I'm sure you're aware. So we would be certainly less insistent on pricing if we only could find a bit of remunerative work.
So what are you trying to do? Are you trying to repeat
I'm gonna
your
try
negotiation?
To kind of...
I haven't talked much to Hornaday, but I'm gonna I usually just stand there and look like I might shoot the person that Tyrus is talking to. It's my typical go-to in these kind of situations, but in this case, I'm gonna try to help. So I do have charm. I'm gonna say, Horn today. Please remember he's selling these for me. So if he comes off crass, please don't punish me for it because I am very broke and my ship did crash on your planet. And I have done nothing but try to be helpful to you and your people. Then I'm going to flash him a charming smile. So I don't know if that gives maybe Tyrus a boost or if I can roll a charm roll to kind of...
you're going to have to roll a
get him out of
charm
his
check
funk.
on him. So go ahead and roll a charm check. Same difficulty, 2 red dice. Again, you can use destiny points if you choose to.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jensa, after you say that, you see him kind of like kick one shoulder back for a second and turn his head towards you and cock an eyebrow, and he says, well, she speaks. You're right, I'm sorry. I don't mean to get unfriendly, it's against my upbringing actually, but times have been a little hard.
He remembers me dragging him through the desert.
Times have been a little hard. You guys have been good to me, and I apologize for my
totally
response.
Understandable. You just lost your home and your whole world, basically.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you the 2,400, and if I can sell them for any more than that, I'll give you 50% of the profit I make off them.
You don't have to do that. I know you're on tough times.
Well,
I just look at
how about
Jensa
this?
agog.
I think maybe you should talk to your contact Shuck here that I set up for you about your little situation with the poison. I think he can help you.
Thank you so much. You really helped us a lot. I hope we run into each other again in the future.
Well, I certainly hope so. We have hopefully an ongoing business relationship to consider. Oh, I almost forgot. My friend Geleth, who you met before, the dashing gentleman, he took a shine to you, Jensa. He certainly took a shine to you. He is here on the ship, and he asked for a moment of your time when you have a minute.
All of our time?
Yes, all of your time. He's back from a venture, and he says he had some loose ends to tie up with you guys, some promises that he has not yet made good on.
I appreciate you passing along the message. I guess we're off to the next fella, though.
Yep. Now we're gonna go.
Yeah, actually,
we're gonna
Shuck,
go,
I could translate for you guys with that fellow Shuck. You know, he is Aqualish, and their language is hard to understand.
So that would be
well,
our
I'll join
next
you.
destination. And
I go to being mute again.
on the way, I'm gonna contact Victor.
Well done, Jensa, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, it worked out that time. I'm like, hey, I've been like dead stone cold quiet this whole damn time. So around
I think I need to upgrade my charm skills.
Well,
hey, it works,
I mean, you don't have to.
Like, it works though, because when you negotiate yourself into a corner, I can come in with the charm. It actually makes for a good little duo.
Right. It's good cop, bad cop negotiation.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see if I can get Kirk to come over here if you want to contact Victor.
Unwind.
So the question is, has Victor repaired the computers A, and B, is there a computer on this craft that could crack the deed to the small piece of property that we found that was encoded? It needed a much more substantial computer than we had before.
From what you had previously learned, you would either need to contact a slicing expert or someone who has experience with sort of legal deeds and properties. So I imagine you could probably ask Granville to see if he could find anyone for you.
Okay.
At the moment, he's sort of your underworld contact network, but...
Okay. Well, then I think we should move on to Shook to get the master's situation clarified.
All right, so the group of you kind of make your way over to a tent on the far side of the hangar, and as you go in there, you see Gran kind of motion you to stop for a minute. He leans his head in, says a few things, and then opens the tent flap and says, "My friends, please come in." And as you do, you see the familiar face of the Aqualish. It's sort of that rough kind of, forgive me, but butt-faced looking fellow who was kind of dressed in what you might describe as modest clothing, but neat, perhaps a little out of fashion, maybe, as someone who kind of lacks a bit of a fashion sense, but thinks that they're dressing nicely. And he's sitting at the table, looking through a case of a number of vials of liquid. And to his right and left, you see the two large Felucian panthers that you remember so well from before. Each one of them having a little sort of diamond collar around their neck. You walk in, it is Shuck Rodank and his pets waiting to receive you.
We say, "Sir, we are happy to see you again. We deeply regret at our last meeting that one of our party overreacted. Let's just say he's had some time to cool his jets."
Oh no.
Make a charm check for me, please. Average difficulty.
Can I put a destiny point on this?
Sure, if you'd like to. I'll flip it over and you can...
I'm gonna need all the help I can get.
Yeah. So, as you say that, he looks at you for a moment and just sort of locks gaze with you, and then he reaches into a bowl on the table which is filled with some sort of, like, raggedy, bloody flesh, and he picks up a piece and flings it over his shoulder.
That came back at a weird moment.
And Tickle Talon, the Felucian panther, kind of jumps up and opens his giant mouth, and you see these fangs as he catches the meat in midair and then licks his lips with the blood kind of smearing over his black fur. And they both kind of look at you, and he says in his guttural, kind of unintelligible Aqualish speech, which is kind of like these awful sounds. And Granville turns to you and he says, think nothing of it. As the two panthers kind of lick their jowls and stare at you.
Which I
why don't we get this moving forward?
Yeah.
What's that?
I understand that it means nothing means it means a lot.
So he says, "Have a seat, gentlemen. Let's take a civil pose with each other." Mr. Shuck here, he's done some analysis on this piece of amber that you brought him and found that it indeed could be used for, well, let's just say there's a bit of a bifurcation in terms of what direction you may want to take its development in, and he wants to see which way you'd like to go with it. On one hand, it can be used as a medical grade sedative to handle trauma victims and their in their therapy. On the other hand, we could develop it into a potent narcotic, which seems to enhance one's connection to, let's just say, those interesting gifts that you fellas have that the rest of people don't seem to. It seems to have some sort of activity on that bit of stuff, and it could be marketable at a significantly higher price, albeit significantly illegal, of course.
And what sort of price would we be talking about?
So as Shuck looks at you for a moment, he pulls out sort of a data pad and starts kind of, fingering in a whole bunch of numbers and running calculations. And he says something to Hornaday, and Hornaday turns to you and says, "Well, basically, if you don't mind kind of selling him the rights to this discovery, he'll give you 5,000 credits right off the bat, and you will extricate yourselves of any responsibility for this product or anything that comes out of it."
And the other bifurcation?
Well, if you choose to, he'd be interested in having you help him source more of it to kind of mass produce this product. But that would involve you going back to Duskin's Cove, or at least to the planet of Ruuria Prime, and finding some sort of arrangement where those bug things let you take it.
I just look at Jensa, Resin. Do you feel like flying back to Ruuria Prime?
Granted, of course, it doesn't mean you have to do it now, but what his offer is either you sell him the chunk so that he can develop it himself and he'll give you 5,000 credits as a one-time fee and you relinquish all rights, or if you want to partner with him in producing it as a drug, a spice, he asks you to go back and find a way to get more of the actual amber from the salt rock hives, and in so doing you would get a piece of all profits.
Jensa was extremely morally objected against using it as a drug.
Yeah, no.
Well, but what I'm going to negotiate is you give us 7,500, and if we bring you more, then we continue this relationship.
And he says something to Hornaday, and Hornaday turns to you and he says, he's not inclined to accept that offer.
So I don't even have to do a negotiation check?
You can. Yeah, you're welcome to.
With how many difficulty?
He is the same. He's 2 red dice.
Oh boy. Nope.
So he actually, through Hornaday, you translate your negotiations with him. And he doesn't agree with you, but at the same time, he kind of turns back and says, well, Hornaday says on his behalf, well, he says, let's agree to revisit this topic at a later time. At the moment, he's going to give you a sample of this new product. So you guys are going to have a... let me find it here. You guys are going to have a sample of this new spice he developed from your discovery. I will transfer it to your inventory.
I'm going to kind of like quietly whisper to Bior and Tyrus, I thought we weren't going to do this.
Hold on. So this is like a drug that he's giving us?
Yeah. So he took the amber crystal that you took from the salt rock hives that you found, which was essentially like a substance that the insects create to enable them to have a hive mind with each other. And they would feed, except it gives them the ability to interconnect
it works
their
differently,
consciousness.
but it's essentially like honey.
And ecstasy mixed.
He found a way to turn it into a spice, which sort of boosts your connection to the Force.
So it's a free sample. I see no problem in taking it. It doesn't mean we have to use it. We can decide later.
I didn't think we were going to give this to anyone that would do this with it. We shouldn't have taken it in the first place.
Well, we're selling this for pharmaceutical purposes, and in return, he's given us a free sample of something that may enhance our connection to the Force. We don't need to decide this at the moment, but it's an intriguing possibility.
It's wrong.
We should ask the Master.
Maybe you should ask the Queen of the Hive. She made her feelings about it pretty apparent.
Well, she went in through one ear and out the other for me, so I think she and I have met.
That was awesome, actually.
Well put, sir.
Which is why my ear was hanging off, and that's what Bior had to fix.
I don't want anything to do with drugs.
Tyrus, you get a dose of what's called Sage's Sight, which he has, Shuck Rodank, the chemist and artist, has dubbed this compound. It basically gives you an automatic 2 light side force points on any single force roll. But the euphoria induced by it causes any brawn, agility, or resilience check to suffer 2 setback dice until you've had 8 hours sleep.
Oh.
However, there's a special property. The force points added by this roll, since they're light side force points, since it generates a euphoria and sense of connection to the universe, that the result of that roll cannot be used to inflict harm on any living thing.
Okay.
So think of it as 2 free force points on any single force roll if you imbibe it, with a slight reduction to your brawn-based abilities for a little while until you sleep again.
Gotcha.
Good for the brainy light sider.
Who knows?
Yeah, I just take a couple of steps backwards, and I'm like, I'm not gonna peddle drugs.
I'm with Bior.
You're not peddling.
And, Hornaday turns and says, "Listen, guys, you're in the Outer Rim. I understand you got principles, but they don't take you far out here. You're gonna need money to survive."
Entire life.
Hornaday, you do what you want, and I'll do what I want.
Well,
Fair enough.
before we...
I'm not pushing you. I'm just trying to create opportunity. That's how
Before we
most of
burn
us
any
got where we
bridges.
are.
The sort of people that would benefit from this drug are the last people that need this drug right now with what's going on politically. I don't want anything to do with it.
Before we burn any bridges, there is the matter of the antidote.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were here to talk about. And honestly, that's all I'm interested in talking about.
Go ahead, talk about it.
So, Bior, can you describe to Shook what we need?
Well, I know it by name. What was the antidote or the poisons thing?
Felucian Alceatoxin.
Right.
I assume your character would just know that name.
Yes, our master has been poisoned by this, and we are desperately looking for the antidote.
Master.
So Shuck says something, and Hornaday looks like a little troubled for a second, like he's trying to figure out what to say, and he says, yes, he can help you with that.
And under what conditions?
Hornaday turns to him for a moment, and they have like a back and forth for a good 30 seconds, and you can see like Shuck's kind of his movements are like terse and quick, and he's kind of thumping his fist on the side of the chair. And your read is he's fairly irritated, but Hornaday turns and he says, well, what do you propose? He says that he can find an antitoxin, but he would like to see how you could sweeten the offer for him.
We pull out Jensa's robes.
Yeah.
And you see Hornaday.
Sell
World's
them?
ugliest crossdresser. I don't.
Can we just sell them to Hornaday?
You see Hornaday like look at you, Tyrus, and he puts a hand out and kind of waves it away, like discreetly on the side, like don't even bring that up.
And we just sold them to Hornaday, didn't we?
I don't think we got any funds for it yet.
Well, I thought
Not
we
yet,
made the
no.
arrangement. I thought they were sold.
You could just tell Hornaday's like, don't fucking bring up the robes again, please.
I'm obsessed.
They're really nice.
Yes. So I just
Struck
turned to
starts
Hornaday
to get
and say,
up from his chair as the Panthers stand
Yes.
up with him. And Hornaday
I
says,
say,
he's saying if you have nothing left to discuss, he's going to be done with this conversation.
so we
We've
just
got
say,
a
Mr.
very
Hornaday, we're both
grand-
men of business. What are his conditions?
Mr. Shuck, just wait 1 second if you would. And he pulls you guys
Could you
outside of
tell-
the tent for a second. And he says, listen, guys, you're talking to someone who views themselves as an artist, as a creator, and you're standing there making him feel like he's some common drug peddler.
Well,
It's not a good angle to go if you're looking for something from him.
Whoa. You guys broadsided me with the drug thing. You broadsided Bior with it. You can't expect us to just sit there with our lips shut when we told you guys from the get-go that we weren't interested in selling drugs, and I made that clear to you, and I made that clear to you. I say it very
Well, Tyrus might get this better than you would, but sometimes in life you have to be willing to make some deals to get what you want. It does not going to work out to insult this fella after you shot him once when he didn't even attack you. Your relationship
Oh my
is
god,
in
it's the guy
jeopardy.
we shot? I totally forgot.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the guy that Kirk shot.
Actually, I shot.
Um,
Oh wait, no, Kirk shot him. Ha ha! That was the one time I didn't
I
shoot
think
for
So,
Fire.
I mean, as you can see, your reputation with this individual is already questionable,
that
and you're
changes
basically
things,
casting
but-
aspersions at him
Right.
in the negotiations. So,
Well, I didn't think he
pulls
could
it-
understand us either, so...
Hornaday
And I-
pulls you aside just to kind of reset that thought, and then he pulls you back in the tent and says, okay, all right, let's try this again. What can you offer him?
I have got a very long resume moving goods across this part of space.
He slams his fist on the table the second you say that, and he says something in a deep kind of pulsing voice, and the two panthers suddenly look both at Jensa, and Hornaday turns to you and he says, here's his offer. You give him the amber chunk, tell him where to find more, and you carry some cargo for him to your next destination, and he will arrange for the antidote to be delivered. Free of charge beyond that agreement.
Would this antidote be delivered immediately upon our turning over the amber to you?
Hornaday turns to him and they have a brief exchange, and Hornaday turns back to you and says, the antidote will get there before you can get there. How's that?
So I look back to Jensa and Bior. So, do we save the Master's life?
She just kind of bites her lip and nods once and then kind of like broods in typical Jensa fashion.
And was he offering...
Jensa, are you trying to conceal that, or are you being visibly...
Yes, I am trying to conceal that.
Okay, I'd like you to make a average cool check, please.
I'm just being honest about my character's emotions.
No, true. Make an average cool check for me, please. So, so you can tell as Shuck's looking at you,
I did not.
He doesn't change his reaction to you, but you can tell that he's not fond of you. Like, specifically you, he's not fond of.
Yeah, it's mutual.
So he turns to you, and Hornaday says, all right, he wants to know if you have a deal. The antidote, in exchange for you carrying cargo that you don't ask about to your location.
Well, sir, if you could be amenable to finding us a well-priced purveyor of supplies, you have a deal.
Hornaday looks at you for a second.
The operating
Tyrus.
I'm hurt.
No. I'm speaking of what we're going to need for this ship, for fuel, for the running costs. If he will fund our journey's costs, we will be happy to make this deal.
So he says something to Hornaday, and Hornaday turns to you, Tyrus, specifically, and he says, well, Tyrus, it appears he's glad to talk to somebody who finally knows how to make a deal. He says if you get the cargo to where he wants you to get it, he'll throw in an extra 5,000 credits.
And I just pound my fist on the table and say, sold. And in addition...
So, as this deal is arranged, and you both have agreed, just so everyone understands what you're agreeing to, he is arranging for an ultra-rare antidote to be delivered to the Rebels ship, which means you're going to have to tell him the location of the Rebel ship. At which time he will have the antidote delivered there. You are going to take on board your ship a collection of cargo which you are not to open or ask about. It is to remain...
If it turns out to be kids, I'm just gonna say, but not out loud.
It is to remain unopened and untampered with.
Victor and I will be in the same situation we were before.
And it cannot be apprehended by any form of authority. And he does warn you that it would not be received kindly by any kind of customs agent. If you can safely bring it to the Tyon cluster and deliver it to the coordinates of his choosing, then you get an additional 5,000 credits and his ongoing appreciation. In exchange, he is keeping the amber chunk.
Kip is halfway convinced he's fallen in with another group of pirates.
Pirate is such an ugly term. Space arbitrage.
Arbitrage, I love that.
So here's the question.
They're only slightly less volatile than Jags.
Hey,
But
I'm
here's the
volatile
question.
to the drug dealer.
Here's the question for the game master and also for Jensa. If there were to be if there were to be living beings in the crates, would we be able to sense them?
Do any of you have the sense force power?
That's my next upgrade.
And that is my hint.
Right. So that will be. I will turn to Jensa and say, any moment now, I feel the force sense power coming on, and if there are
I
any,
didn't bring up the kid thing. I
know,
didn't
but I know your feeling about children.
She flat
He
out
feels
told
a
you
tingle
that
somewhere.
Victor and her
I feel a
jettisoned
rash
an entire
spreading.
Crew. Jettisoned an entire crew right before they picked you guys up because they were smuggling kids.
But I
So,
just
I
looked
did
at
just
Jensa
tell the entire group that.
and just say, if there's anything, if there's others of our kind somehow in those crates, I'll set them free myself. Of course, I
And,
say this without anyone else
Chuck
hearing
Rodang.
it.
Oh, you didn't say it out loud, right?
No, I
Conversation later.
turned it and
He's
I put
giving
my
me the
forehead.
look.
Yeah, I put my forehead up against her head, and that's it. So he didn't hear a word.
Okay. So
We touch
Shuck
foreheads.
goes
It
to.
looks touching.
He's basically arranging for the cargo to be transported. One of the panthers, which you see around its name tag, Tickle Talon, comes up to you, Tyrus, and as it walks by, it kind of like purrs for a second, and this thing weighs like a good 200 pounds, and it like brushes itself up against your leg as it walks by, kind of nuzzling against you for a second, and then turns around and like walks away.
Just sent Mark to you.
Either he likes me or he thinks I'm
Gonna eat you
delicious.
later.
And then
I'll
after
eat you
Shuck
first.
and the two panthers like leave the scene, Hornaday slaps the table and he goes, "God damn, that was fun." He goes, "You guys are very interesting in negotiation. You guys need to agree on a common thread. You all over the map."
We like to keep them guessing, Hornaday.
"Let's have a drink to celebrate your first deal." And he pulls out a little pocket flask and kind of fills like a few small cups that they have around and passes it around. "To our ongoing business," and he clinks. By
To
the
you,
way,
sir.
please
What's in the
add to your
cup?
credit stash his 2,400 credits that he transfers to you for the robes. And what is your current credit total with all this? This should be...
It should be 10,772.50.
Okay, so that make sure someone keeps track of the coming and going of money.
I got
Scott's
it.
gonna do that for the group. I think you wanted to be the party accountant.
Correct.
What's in the cup?
Some sort of alcoholic beverage. Are you asking
Jensen
him
doesn't
that?
Touch it. Jensen just sniffs it and doesn't drink it. She didn't make a big deal
And he-
out of it or anything.
he
She didn't
looks
look
over at
rude
you and
about
he
it.
goes,
She just
"Ugh."
doesn't drink it.
Such a killjoy.
And I just look at Jensen and say, you obviously have no appreciation of Andalorian brandy.
I'm where fun goes to die.
And then Hornaday grabs your cup, Jensa, and he downs it as well. He goes, "I ain't wasting this."
I'll get some water.
And he slaps the table and says, "Don't forget about your meeting with Gillith, Hawk, and I gotta attend to some business. I'll have the cargo moved onto your ship, and I'll kick in some free fuel to make up for the amount you lost from coming here. So you're gonna start with a full fuel tank at no expense from this location."
Do you have some bandages for my dignity? That's feeling a bit winded too right now.
I just brush Jensa aside and say, Mr. Halliday, I think we're going to have a very productive relationship.
He reaches out his hand to you, Tyrus, and shakes it with gusto, nods and says, "I agree. Thank you very much." And he walks off.
So now we have to go see the smuggler.
Give me a minute. I'm gonna drink a glass of water. Then I'm going to brush my hair and apply some lipstick and sigh several times before I pinch my cheeks and make myself smile.
Will you put the robes on? I'm really obsessed with the robes.
The robes are gone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We sold them. Sorry. Yes, you're right. Okay, so we're heading off to the smuggler then.
You guys.
But
Okay,
before we
so-
stop, we look over at Kip And how has he been reacting to this bizarre show?
He when the yelling started, the heightened emotion, you would have seen him actually sort of take a step back and sort of move his blaster ready, his car to like an easier position to grab, because he's seen this type of stuff go down, and he's looking at you all differently than he had the day before.
Right. So I just look over at Kip and say, sometimes, son, you have to make some difficult decisions, but this was a piece of cake.
Yes, sir.
And this will be a good place for us to call it. And what we'll do is we will say that we'll pick up on the next session from the hangar with your meeting with Geleth Hawk, and we'll go from there. And that wraps up our adventure for tonight. Our heroes have finally had a little time to rest and process their struggles on Ruuria Prime. Jensa had an interesting vision of a character that she dealt with rather harshly, and the party gets some leads on their upcoming adventures. Join us next time when they rendezvous with their old friend, the flamboyant weapons dealer and industrialist Geleth Hawk, who will give them a lead on their next adventure. We hope you have a good week. We will be posting our next episode in approximately 2 weeks' time. Have a great night.